I start up the recording, and we'll look at the market here. So this is ES, like we go through every Sunday. We did have a few wild days there last week going into Thursday, Friday, which was, I mean, really good for the shorts. One thing that I do notice about ES is this area that I have drawn in here. This is going to be a really, really key area. So it's going to be 458-250s, which is going to be this 2-hour supply zone here. Let me just get this marked up. This 2-hour supply area right in here. So we've tested this area a few times. It's also making this downtrend. As soon as we get into and get through this area, this is where buyers should really start stepping up and push price up to this 4655 area. I don't think it's going to go from here straight up, but if we can start really consolidating, finding buyers, building higher lows into something like this, this is going to be the area to watch. Now, we're not forecasting trades, right? We're not trying to forecast what's going to happen. We're giving ourselves a market outlook and giving ourselves an idea, a bunch of what if scenarios. Like if this happens, I do this. If this happens, I do that. This is what we're trying to do as traders. There are people out there, like I said before, that forecast. It is not quite my forte, but I do like to set myself up and set ourselves up for multiple scenarios in the market. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on the daily chart here, and I'm just going to delete a few demand zones that are getting completely obliterated. This 1, 2, 3 demand zones that just got smashed. We had a little hang up inside these zones intraday, but ultimately these things just failed. So we'll get rid of those guys, and this is what we have for fresh or fresher supply and demand. We will go into these days and see if we can mark a few things up. Before we do that, I want to jump into the action from Friday. So I did notice a few things Friday. Now, primarily based off the 15-minute initial balance. If we look at price action here, as soon as we broke 15-minute initial balance high, what did we do? We pushed into supply, rejected, and we absolutely never came back to look at the supply ever again for the rest of the day. So if we're patient here, and at this point we can say we have one tick in our favor for a potential down move on the SPY because we rejected supply. Now we have another point in our favor. We're failing to hold 15-minute initial balance high. So we're like check now. And then one other major thing that I saw on the SPY during the day was, if we go to, well, we're on a 3-minute chart here, and if we start drawing this sort of trend line in that runs us into 10:30, 11 o'clock sort of area, we can see that the SPY is just making lower highs on the day. We're failing to break back above 50-minute initial balance high. Buyers aren't even strong enough to bring us back into supply to test the sellers. They've just completely given up, and we're pushing price down. Flip over to the 15-minute chart and we look at the after hours price action. Now I like to do this and have this mapped out, typically going into the day. And what we see here is, this is where buyers started showing presence, right? Buyers started showing presence going into the open, fading, and then building higher lows before these nice pushes and higher lows right into the open. So if this is a representation of strength here, buyers building higher lows on top of a flat top right here. Remember what we say, 2 taps are for suckers. Never buy this breakout. Never buy the second tap for the breakout. Always buy the third tap. If we look at this trade alone in the after hours session, you had a breakout which you could have bought. You had a pullback trade which you could have bought. Now this is telling us buyers are strong and buyers are present at this current time in this current market. Now, going into the open, this should have been our pullback for our move to the upside, and we should have continued to make these higher lows. Well, we didn't that day. Now, if we leave this trend in here on the 15-minute chart, we go into the intraday price action and we look at this, right? This is our trend here from the 15-minute chart in the after-hour session. We've established that we're failing at supply. We can't hold above the 15-minute initial balance. We're actually holding under. Now, if we're super patient with our trades, what can we see? We can see one of a few things. This is the first time that we came back to test that zone or that level intraday. But what do? We bounced, we failed the 15-minute initial balance low, and then we continued to the downside. So realistically, if we were right on top of this, we could have found an entry short in here. I got a few scalps in here, but I didn't take an entry short to find this move. This was just wild. But we could have found an entry in this area saying, okay, we're making this trend to the upside. Buyers are failing to follow through. We're failing 15-minute initial balance lows after we couldn't hold the highs. This could be indication to get into the markets here. And if you miss this trade, considering that this might be the first trade to the short side, you could have taken something further along. Now, just by looking at this chart, I'm going to say that something within this time frame is going to give us some sort of DBD on a higher time frame. Let's go to the 30-minute and see what we had. 30-minute, not super clean. We want to look for DBDs in this area after we're failing, proving that we're failing, and we look for entries. 45-minute, here it is. 45-minute, we have a drop. We base out on the 45-minute right here. Sideways, inverted hammer. Beautiful chart pattern to couple with the technicals. And then we could possibly get a short here or use a higher time frame to confirm our smaller time frame biases, right? And then we get this really nice fade. There was demand under here, remember? So some of these trades, risk versus reward wise, weren't the best, but they did work out here. Now what I'm going to look for going into tomorrow is, let's do this here. What I'm going to look for going into tomorrow is this is a critical area of congestion. So this area right here, this was 3, 4, 5 days of consolidation and price chop, right? So this was indecision between buyers and sellers. They didn't know which way they wanted the markets to go. So as we're pulling back into this congestion area, preferably this demand zone, this is where we want to see buyers really start stepping up and pushing price to the upside if that's what's going to happen. Now, once we break down our supply and demand zones here, we're going to be able to see some supply in this area likely, and maybe the better play going into Monday, or one of the what if plays going into tomorrow, is going to be if the after hours session starts and we actually bounce into supply, we could find shorts from supply back into this DZ as it's proving to hold right now. Like I said, I still think we want deeper on the market to find more buyers to push higher, but we have to play the what if scenarios and we can't form a hard bias. Otherwise, we're going to get ourselves into nonsense trades and we're going to miss opportunity. So let's start from the daily chart here and we'll look at ES and see if we can plot out any more supply or demand zones. I think we have most of them in here. We're looking to fill this gap, likely with supply. We'll go to the 4-hour chart here. I do have a 4-hour supply zone here that we could mark off of this candle. This is a drop. We base out and we start dropping again back into the next DZ. But this is too large for me right now to mark. If I have to, absolutely have to mark it, I will. But right now it's too large, and we'll drop down some smaller time frames to see if we can find a better supply zone in this area. We go to the 3-hour. I sort of want a white or a green candle at the top here to mark this sell-off. So we'll see if we can find something on a lower time frame. We do have a 2-hour right here, and I do really like this 2-hour. So I think I'm going to take this 30-minute zone because it's already been tested. That was the zone that was tested off the open. I'll leave that 30-minute marker there, or the 30-minute line there, but I'm going to move this actual zone to our 2-hour candle here. So we have this 2-hour candle. I'll drop a ray line in front of the zone and we will mark it 2-hour. 2-hour. Oop, we're going to put that on the top. Okay, so we have a nice 2-hour zone to play off of right here. We might be able to find some 1:30, 45-minute zones within this 2-hour zone here. And because the session hasn't opened up for tonight, it actually opens up in about 50 minutes. There's likely going to be some new zones that we're going to have to mark tomorrow morning, especially on the shorter time frames. Also, this demand zone or the supply zones that we mark in for the day could potentially get broken into tomorrow. And if they do, we just make minor adjustments going into tomorrow to keep our plan in place. Let's go down to the 1-hour chart. I still like the 2-hour off this, so we don't have to mark any 1-hour zones within this 2-hour zone, and we had nothing new really show up. This could be a supply zone right here, and I think I'm going to mark that as a supply zone. I do like this big drop right here, so this is a really nice drop where we fell for the latter part of the day into that after-hour session. So if we take this 30-minute supply zone up here, We'll drop it here, buy this candle, buy the high of this guy right here, and we'll call this a 1 hour zone instead of a 30-minute. These are minor adjustments that you guys can make along the way. If you kept that 30-minute zone in there, it's not wrong. It's not wrong necessarily, but I do like this 1 hour zone. It gives us a really, really good picture here. If there's a really nice 30-minute zone within here, we'll mark that also. Okay, let's go back up to the 90-minute because that's how my charts are laid out here, or my time frames are laid out. So this is also a really nice 90-minute zone that we marked on the 1 hour. Change this to 1 hour so we know it's not 1 minute. So this is a really nice 90-minute zone here off of this doji candle. You could mark the low of that body off to the high. The reason I'm not going to mark it is because I have this solid 2 hour zone in here that I really like that will encapsulate the high of the zone. And this 1 hour zone is pretty much playing the low of that body. Anything within this trading range is probably not tradable for me, as it's only a $10 or $12 range. This is going to be a no trade zone or a short zone for me if buyers don't show up and sellers actually respond to these areas. We'll drop into the 45-minute time frame here. So off this 2 hour zone that we have down at the bottom, I do like this 45-minute candle. So this is a zone within a zone. So I'll drop a line at the low of that that doji candle there. I'll write 45-minute. So we know it's a 45-minute zone. Now I know I have a 45-minute within the 2 hour. And if price ends up pulling into these zones, we've hit a 2 hour, we hit the 45-minute. All this means is we have traders from potentially 2 time frames looking at this exact play or this exact zone. So this is just more context for our trade. These are more pieces of the puzzle that we're adding up to capitalize on this trade if we do get one in this area. We'll go down to the 30-minute here, and nothing stands out super clear on the 30-minute. I like the 2 hour, I like the 45-minute. We know we have a 30-minute just above for a few points, so this area is going to be pretty thick here. My hopes for tomorrow is we can either test this demand zone going into the open, like we have a sell-off overnight in the overnight session, and then we hold and we have lots of room for upside potential, or we hold this zone and we open tomorrow somewhere up here. We can test this zone and look for shorts into that double zone here for a possible move back down to this already used zone. And like I said before, I do think that this zone's going to break this 1 and 3 hour zone down here, and I hope it does, because the deeper the market pulls back, the more potential we have for a move to the upside. Okay, so this is how I'm going to lay out my plan for the week right now, or going into tomorrow, and we'll make small adjustments for the week. Like I said, I do hope this area breaks. I don't know if it's going to break tonight, but I do hope it breaks at some point this week. It would be really nice if we held this area open and then we could get a long, or if we pushed up in the overnight session, held below here, and we could get a short back to this demand zone. So as of this very moment right now, that's how I'm looking at the market. If anything changes overnight, of course, we go in and we make small adjustments along the way. And we just trade our what if scenarios. We don't know what's going to happen in the market, neither does anyone else. People could have a very good idea of what they think is going to happen, but nobody knows for sure. So why not just play our what if scenarios? And I think really that's the safest bet. Anyways, I think that's it for tonight. What I'll do is I'll save this recording. I'll upload it to YouTube right away. And you guys can have a watch or a rewatch if you'd like. Outside of that, enjoy your Super Bowl Sunday. I hope if you're cheering for a team, they win. And if you guys have any questions, as always, let me know in the chat room or send me a DM. You have a good one, guys.